Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another recording of the Black Remembering podcast. This week, we are in episode 3 of our Tea on Taxes series, and I am so honored and excited to welcome Milan Bush to the podcast today to specifically talk about her feelings around taxes. Oftentimes, we know that tax time brings up many emotions, many memories, and so the purpose of this Tea on Taxes series is to really delve into that within the community in the Black Appalachian region in the Ohio River Basin. So, Milan, thank you for joining us today. So, let's dive right in. The first question that I have is when I say the term taxes, what words, thoughts, visions, phrases, any of those that come to mind?
Rebate, rich, poor. When I think about taxes, I think the first things that come to mind are those things. I feel like April, those crucial times.
Definitely. We all know that April 15th typically is that deadline that you have to get things in. So, what were you taught growing up about taxes?
Not really anything. I just knew because my birthday's in February, right? And I'm the oldest of 5 children. And so for a while, like tax time was magic for us because it would be my birthday time and then parents would have a bunch of money and it would be great. So I didn't really have much understanding of it, but for me, it was like a second Christmas time. and with my birthday, I remember in particular one time during tax season, I went to the mall and I got my first herringbone necklace. So I feel like tax time has been this moment from a child perspective, but no clarity of what that meant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I remember growing up, again, it was that almost second Christmas, like, oh, we've got this tax rebate coming when I was younger, and that we could get the things that we wanted, or if we act right and have our, schoolwork done or have the grades, and we can get something additional, or those family trips, because it was often around spring break. So those family trips would often be financed by those rebates. I would say now, and we'll get to this a little bit later, that's not so much the case. Those rebates are getting less and less. What rebate? There are no rebates. Um, so who taught you what you know about taxes, either now or growing up, or again right now?
I have a mentor that is continually teaching me, I didn't know that they were a tax person. They actually, wild story. Like I taught fitness and became friends with her, and we're talking about taxes, and they were like, "Hey, let me take a look," and so has been showing me some different areas, in particular because at one point, like so many of us, I'm not just working one job. And so I had a main job and then I had as a contractor. And so knowing how to do taxes, not just from a W-2 standpoint, but from a self-employed was, I think, really what started to make me think about taxes differently, because I had to do it myself as opposed to the W-2s did a lot of the work for me. But when I'm like, okay, I'm a entrepreneur, what does that look like? Do I get to take off for these pins? When I get some new shoes, what does that look like? I also remember they were like, charitable expenses are tax write-off. So then I would donate a bunch of clothes to Goodwill and they'd be like, I'll give you a slip. But then when I went to taxes, what does that even mean? Because it really wasn't deducted. So I've been like a self-learner and I've had a mentor that's still helping me. There's still a lot of questions that I have. But for the most part, it's taken some time to look at taxes, not just from like you said, the rebate, but itemizing what does that look like and being even careful about how many deductions I take out of my checks. So nobody in particular, but I have a mentor now.
Yeah, and I think that's something that in today's society, just the shift that we have in the world of work period for the 90s, I call those the good years, where it was the W-2s and you would go and it would just be real quick and simple. I think it was free most of the time and you go and get the rebate. But now, like you said, most people have multiple jobs, and most of them, I would say, you have your full-time job and then you have a contractor, or if you're an entrepreneur, which is a whole nother beast. And so having to really know the intricacies of taxes, of W-4, and making sure that you've turned that in so you can get your 1099 and whatnot. And these are all terms I know for me, I'm still learning. I've been a business owner and entrepreneur since 2018. And the fact that I'm like, oh, do I actually need my clients 1099 or am I just going to be double taxed? But that really determines if you are regular LLC or if you're filing as an S corp. So there's all this language that just different levels of confusion, I think. And the more you step out on your own and take these risks, the more risk it puts you at to do things wrong as well. So
Absolutely. The margin of error is kind of big.
it is, and the risk, like if you do this incorrectly, you hear horror stories of people going to jail.
Right. The PP loans, like
Exactly, and it's like I didn't meet like I'm just trying to do the best that I can, and but yeah, it definitely is scary if you mess up, and so that often stops a lot of people from actually doing their taxes in the first place, or we're just doing them wrong, or we could be getting more back, or we're doing it wrong, and we should be paying more. So yeah. So thinking back again to when you were growing up and even now, like what was the mood or what is the mood in your house around tax season?
so it kind of has altered. Again, as I think just thinking through money, again, like I knew it's my birthday time too. So I was like, I'm always in happy mode during February. And, but I mean, we don't always file taxes in February, but like, I think there's this sense of like relief coming. And that was really the mood. Now, as I have progressed in the tax bracket spaces, as my children, like you said, as the children have gotten older, looking at tax season, it's not as like, okay, I know this money's coming. Like again, like when my kids were younger, I'm like, okay, I know this is coming in, so I'll get this relief. As I gotten older, I'm like, okay, how much do I have to pay? And so like it's changing the lenses, but like I've grown in mindset. So, where it could have been like, oh God, I'm paying taxes, like so knowing that that's just a part of growing up in America and growing up financially, that, you can go from getting a rebate to owing, just depending on how your money flows. So I think I have tried to weather the storms of that, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I think I've learned to just be mindful that it's going to come around every year, and just being best prepared that I can be.
Yeah, I know a term that I'm hearing a lot is tax planning, and that's something new that I haven't learned a lot about. And so last year, financially on paper, was my biggest income year ever. But then when I'm doing my taxes now and realizing like how much do I owe, and that's not the end of it. I've always thought taxes was you work for a year, you put in these numbers, and then this is what you pay and owe, or this is what you get back, and that's it. But then there's this idea of tax planning where like, wait a second, I can talk with someone and we can figure out a plan for 2025's taxes that are going to be filed in 2026 so that I can make myself get a rebate in a legal way. Like that's a wait a second, that's a possibility. And so I think that is something that right now is reserved for a select few and often not in income communities that look like ours, or people that look like us, because our resources are limited. And so that's just a term that I am learning more about. Just because I think some folks make more, like we're having more jobs, so on paper it may look like we're making more, but the struggles are still the same. The struggles of living paycheck to paycheck. Like there is no middle class. I want to say like there's the struggling classes. I would say is what it's called. Where again you're making all this paper, but in the end, it's not where it's. I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. So what do you wish the conversation around taxes looked or sounded like, or what do you wish it included?
I'm gonna go back to that tax planning. Like again, I'm someone that I think we do better when we're proactive about things, and like are able to not move out of desperation. I think sometimes tax could be like that. Ooh, I just had to make it through the year. And then we get to tax and we ball out until we're broke again into the next season. So like making tax a part of the financial cycle, like there should be like a series, like tax is a part of finances. So it's a big block to talk about. But like incorporating it into like this literacy that is, I would love to see it in schools. But I also would like to see it in communities because, again, we can't give it all into the schools, and you don't know what kind of capacities these schools have. But if there is community finance, and I'm not saying that those don't exist, um, but they're, again, like in pockets. And I think that's just something that we have to make finance language as important as other language. Like, any kind of other conversations, we should be well equipped and well versed. And so I think a lot of that is how do we get this to be I guess more so on a bigger scale. So I think the people that are doing it, great. And I think we also have to be, I think, because money is also a tricky conversation. So I think a lot of people, just depending on your background, money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. These conversations that we have about billionaires, but then also wanting to be rich so that we can have a better life. So it's complexities to that. I think about like when we do have like literacy programs. I mean financial literacy. Some are well done. Some have a alternative motive, and I get that. You people, it's business oriented. So we have people that want to fix your credit and do all this stuff, but I think it's really about educating and empowering people. Yeah, like I said, I think that's what I love with my mentor. Yeah, she helps. She will do my taxes, but we'll also have conversations about my taxes. So it's not just giving her all the power; it is her taking that and also giving it into me so that I can, also grow with this. So I think a lot of it has to do with how we empower folks through literacy, but also through action and like just that community, like hold space.
Yeah. I wish that our healthcare and our tax system could be on one of the same accord, meaning I wish you wouldn't have to pay to file taxes. And I just wish we would take a completely different approach, meaning that whatever I pay, especially like Social Security and whatnot, I am guaranteed to get. Like, it's not that it goes into this big pot for everything to pay all these other things. If there needs to be taxes on Social Security, that is one thing. But then if I'm paying Social Security, then that is mine specifically. And so it's the fact that we have folks who have been working 20, 30 years and then they're getting to retirement age and there's nothing for them. Like, that is not fair. Like, that's not how it should be. So I just wish that our system would look an entirely different way where what do we need to pay the things we need, because we need good roads, we need good education, we need good clean and open spaces. And so if taxes need to be taken out for that, great. But then at the same time, again, those things, the Social Security, everyone should be guaranteed retirement. Like, those, I think that if those are taken out, or they should, that's in the pot waiting for us. um, and again, like, not in this huge America wide bank account that's getting drained for things that we aren't being able to say that we want or not. So
Yeah, I think you're right. Accountability goes a long way in this systematic approach to taxes.
So as we're getting down to the last couple questions, I know the last part of this series, we're actually going to be sitting down and speaking with tax experts. And the first parts of those, we're going to be getting to know about them, how they got into taxes, what do they want the tax world to look like. And then the second part of those conversations, I'm going to be asking them real life questions from our community members. So if you could ask a tax expert one question about taxes, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. Why is it so complicated? If I could ask a tax professional a question, like I want to ask them, like, why did they get into the field? I guess what, as we move into this new space, what are the tips for working class? Like, what do we do to survive? I think that's just really my core question is, as things are starting to shift and change quickly, how do we be proactive so that if, like you said, for 2026 taxes time, like how can we best benefit so that,
Mhm.
we can live?
I think my question would be, like, if money were not an option, how would you like to make a difference, or what would be your mark on the world in terms of like taxes? So, like educating or whatnot, if you could do any type of program. So something along those lines, I think would be my question. So our last question for today is going to be based on our conversation, all the things that we've talked about. what is one thought or piece of information that you're going to hold and take with you?
Tax planning. We're all on this journey of understanding, but I think, again, like as we enter into these spaces of new territory, how can we best be prepared? So tax planning for me, and just being open to change, and knowing as long as I'm working, tax is going to be a part of my life unless things change. But at the same time, I think, again, like the being as prepared as possible is what I'm taking.
I think for me, it's just that it's not just me that struggles with taxes. I think that just having these conversations is showing me that everyone is struggling. And the more you up level, the more you like, what do they grab the bag or get on your grind or lock in, all of that stuff, the more complexity, more money, more problems that happens. And so just that realization. And then with that, like, why? Like you said, why does it have to be so complicated? So I'm just taking that whole thing of like, it's not me. Like, I might be messing it up, but the system is designed for people to mess it up. And that just gives me some relief of like, okay, well, that means that we can come together, hopefully, and change it in some way, shape, or form instead of just like me messing things up. So I think that is what I am taking with me today. So um, thank you for taking the time to share your journey and your thoughts and your experiences with taxes, and definitely tune in, and I will pass along those questions to the tax professionals. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you. This has been a fantastic conversation.
All right, and for our listeners, just continue joining and tuning in. We have another couple months worth of Tea on Taxes episodes, and we look forward to getting feedback and hearing from you all as well.
Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Black Remembering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Black Remembering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.